Welcome, everyone, to the Scaling Smart podcast, where we bring together industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators to discuss key insights, strategies, and experiences that have driven success both for themselves and their customers. I'm Billy Mitchell, your host, and today I'm excited to introduce a special guest, John Gumas. Gumas.com is a full-service branding and advertising digital marketing agency specializing in helping challenger brands grow through smart, strategic, and efficient marketing solutions. John, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Hi, Billy. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, this can be a great conversation. I feel like I've got a legend on the line here. Everybody's going to enjoy this. As a reminder to you, as well as our audience, we break this podcast up into three primary sections. We would love to get to know you personally, how you got to where you're at, a little bit about your organization, Gumas.com. Then we want to talk about your ideal customer, a little bit of the value that you bring to the table, some differentiators that you guys bring to the market, and then really the meat and potatoes, which is that growth and scale. Some of the things that have worked for you, definitely some of the things that haven't. Personally, I like to learn from my failures. Hopefully I fail forward, not necessarily fail backwards. Yeah, with that, does that sound good? Good to go?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Awesome. All right, let's get to know you. So if you don't mind, give us like the 90-second elevator pitch of who you are and what you guys do.
Sure. Gumas Advertising started in 1984. We're a full service branding, digital marketing agency. But what makes us unique is we've invented and trademarked and owned and perfected the methodology called challenger brand marketing. So our clients are organizations of all sizes, shapes, industries that are competing against other organizations that have significantly greater resources. Typically, you think of that as marketing budgets. That's usually at the top. They're spending more money than you. But it also can include things like larger sales forces, more retail locations, greater brand recognition. The list goes on and on. So our clients are competing in marketplaces that tend to be pretty cluttered or competitive. So what we do is truly help them break through that clutter in a very cost-effective brand building way.
I love that. And yeah, with our company, we've really specialized in a niche of that as well with paid advertising. And I love the concept of helping brands become recognized that are otherwise, pushed down because of those large brands. So I think the skill set and the ability for you guys to do that, I can imagine, is bringing a lot of success for organizations. And I know you and I were chatting a little bit before about kind of the excitement you get around creating strategy for customers. Before we head into that, can you tell us a little bit about you, how you got into this, and maybe what has kind of driven that desire to create strategy and what that produces?
Wow, that you're asking me to go back 41 years, Billy. I think I would have had hair back then when I was talking to you 41 years ago.
It's
But
fair.
yeah, the agency started in an interesting way because when I actually have a degree in marketing and branding, which I don't think in this industry I might be one of the rare few. Um, so while I was in college and shortly after college, I was working at agencies, larger agencies, and when I got out, there was one in particular that I remember being in these new business pitches. These potential clients would come in and pitch these ideas that they have to hire the agency. And the first thing the agency owners would ask is, well, how much money do you have to spend? And if they didn't give them a big enough number, the owners would say, sorry, can't help you. So this happened time and time again. And then there was one in particular that I just thought was just an incredible idea. And so they said, no, sorry, we can't help you. So this gentleman's walking out. So I walked them out to the elevator and actually got in the elevator and went down the elevator and we're talking. So I said, what are you going to do? It's such a great idea. And he says, I don't know. And he says, why don't you help me? So that's where the whole concept of challenger brand marketing and helping the underdogs started. So for 41 years, we've been helping companies that are up against bigger companies. And just to clarify, Pepsi is a challenger brand to Coke. And
Sure.
whenever you get into a position, any company where your only differentiator is trying to outspend somebody, that typically does not bode well in the end. So
Yeah.
challenger brand marketing is about truly, understanding how to compete when you're being out resourced.
Yeah, that's interesting. And to think of Pepsi as a challenger brand to Coke, I imagine you're probably never satisfied as an organization, right? There's always a Goliath that you want to go after. There's always some next level you want to achieve, and building the strategy and executing that to get that next stage is probably a lot of the fun that you guys are doing. Tell me a little bit about that strategy component. So when you're talking about challenger brand marketing and the excitement you get around helping customers do this, what are some of those key elements that you're looking for? What are some of the outcomes that you're working towards?
Well, I said the number one biggest objective for every challenger brand, and the number one, I want to call it mistake. Mistake just sounds too harsh. I'm going to call it misconception that companies make that are challenger brands, and challenger brands are almost everybody, is that they assume they know what they need to say. They assume they know their true differentiator. They assume they know their true niche in the market as it relates to their prospective customers, right, and prospects who've never heard of them before. So most companies that we work with just start moving forward with marketing and advertising programs and always wonder why they never really work. And the reason why they never really, not work, but never achieve, right, their full objective is because the message, their brand, their position is not aligned quite right. So excuse me, the first thing we do is take our clients through a process of what we refer to discovery, where what we're trying to find out is what is the actual message that they need to say to a prospective customer who's never heard of them before in, by the way, 7 seconds or less, in a way that is unique to anyone in the marketplace, that is going to get that prospect to go, "Ah, it's exactly what I'm looking for. It's exactly what I want. How did you know? I got to talk to you." You know, get that message. That doesn't happen by accident. But most companies assume they know what that is. So they move forward based on that assumption, which most of the time is incorrect. So that's where challenger brands need to take time out, and because we look at the challenger brand process in 5 steps, with the first step being is gathering that data and gathering that, we call it discovery. And the discovery comes from three sources. Excuse me, it's speaking directly to their existing customers, it's talking to them internally, and it's looking at their competitors. So those 3 points of data, asking incredibly unique type of questions, not your typical questions that you would think you would ask, but questions to really pull out the emotion. Because what we want to find out is the real reason, the truth, as to why someone would use you. Then we want to find the real reason why a, um, your brand is the way it is, the essence of your brand. And then we want to look at your competitors to see what they're doing and what they're saying.
That I love the idea of being able to say in 7 seconds something about your brand that is unique to you, obviously, that's going to capture the attention of your audience in a way that they're going to say that you have the solution to my problem. And that, I mean, that's a skill then, and a mountain that I look at that. We were talking earlier. I'm a very technical marketer. Our company is very technical, and creativity is a different skill set. And being able to pull that out of people, I think, is a phenomenal skill. So let's talk a little bit about your customers and the ideal client. So when you're performing this magic, who are you working with? And if I were to bring you somebody today, what would they look like?
Well, we work with clients all different industries, and these are our clients. Typically, have been marketing, and maybe it's just not working as well as it used to be, or they're finding a competitor that is just really starting to take business away from them, or they just find as as just as well as I know, this industry is changing fast, and all of a sudden, what used to work isn't working as well anymore. And and the other, I think the thing we got to look at is most companies don't need to overcome the gorilla. What most companies need to do is own a niche. Own a niche and defend that niche from anybody. And if you can get your company to that point where you own a niche and you can defend it, you are going to be more successful than you ever dreamt you could possibly be. And I think that's the strategy that most organizations need to get to and don't always look at. But if and that's what challenger brand marketing approach is about, right? Is becoming, we refer to as becoming famous for something. You want people to say, "Oh, you're the company that fill in the blank," right? And whatever that fill in the blank is, that's what resonates with the market. And that's what differentiates you from your competitors. And that's what gets people to really know and understand who you are, right? That's how your brand becomes famous, is because you're the guys that, or gals that, right? And most companies don't approach it that way. And most companies approach it in that I got to keep spending more and more and more. And even for you guys, you guys do great work. But imagine, I'm sure you're working with a lot of companies that their messaging isn't always on par, right? But you guys still manage to take that and do something with it. But
Sure.
imagine what you could really do if that messaging resonated completely and was true and was unique and was believable and credible and they could own a niche. Imagine what you can do with your external marketing skills. So that's where I think most companies don't take the time to really understand that and look at it with a clear mind.
Yeah. As you're saying this, I'm thinking of several of our customers that I'm thinking, man, they could definitely use your service because it would, you know, oftentimes I describe the services we do as putting fuel on the fire, right? You need to have the fire in place, and we're the gas that you pour on it to make it, explode. And I have a feeling that there are a few of our customers that might just need a bigger fire or a better fire.
Yeah, and they
And
only need to do it once, right? They only need to
yeah,
do this once because the essence of your organization doesn't change. The profile of your ideal client or prospective client usually doesn't change from a core perspective, and that all ties into your niche, right? So your position, and that usually does not change unless you have a drastic change within the organization. But until you do that, right, most companies don't do this, surprisingly to me. And when they do go through this, they see just an incredible difference. And I can show you, case study after case study of clients that thought, this is what they should say, and it just wasn't quite working. And all of a sudden, go through this process, and now their message, their brand, their position changes, and just night and day in terms of success. Because sometimes all you have to do is just tweak your message just the right way to make it truly resonate.
yeah, you've got me thinking. And for a moment, I've got a question that's probably going to sound like a weird question, but do you notice that your customers can have multiple niches, or are you encouraging your customer to really hone in on a singular niche? And more of the heart of my question is, when I'm thinking about our organization, we can service a couple different industries very well, mostly because there's some translation across industry that makes it very similar in our overall process. So can we have three niches, or would your recommendation be why don't you pick one and go be an expert in that one?
Oh, that's a really good question, and a little hard to answer because it's very specific to a company's situation.
Sure.
But let me try to do my best to answer that in a generic way. We're big believers that every company has one brand, right? That you are famous for, that you are the best at, that nobody can compete against you. This brand is who you are. Now you can have product lines or niches underneath that as long as they all connect back. Where most companies make their mistake is almost what you described, where it's inverted, where they become product or niche focused companies, and the brand it becomes irrelevant or not as relevant to that. We would strongly argue and show case study after case study, example after example, where that just at some point stops working. You want to turn that around and have a brand, develop a brand, what we've been talking about. Because if you do that right and truly understand who you are, because it doesn't lie, the essence of who this company is does not lie. Our job is not to create it, our job is to extract it and articulate it. Because every company has to live up to the brand that they are. So, with that said, right, the brand and any sort of niche you have or any sort of product line you have, it can work on its own as long as it connects back. And I'll add one other thing to that is if any company is looking to sell themselves, not what. No, hold on, that came out wrong. So, sell their sell their company, right? Maybe that's their exit. That strategy I just described is the way to add significant value to your company. Because if you're just a product-based company with multiple niches without a brand supporting it, then your sale is an EBITDA sale, right? It's based on assets, right? How much are you selling? And if you do it the way I'm describing, now all of a sudden you add to that the value of a brand. Okay, the value of a brand on top of that, and the brand is what people believe. A brand is what is the promise, right? The brand is your guarantee to folks. It just tells people what they can expect doing business with you, and it allows you, once you have that in place, it allows you to easily create as many product lines as you want, as long as they come back. So, the
Man,
long answer to your question, and in most cases,
that's phenomenal. And honestly, I had so many light bulbs going off at that moment. And I'm going to table it for now because I got to wrestle with that. But I'm pretty sure that our audience is going to find some incredible value there. Um, just to switch gears a little bit, I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine this morning, and we were discussing how the market is and industry is constantly changing, right? And organizations need to be on top of the change, right? Innovators and seers into what's happening to be able to pivot, change, adjust, whatever the case might be, in order to stay relevant and successful. And you alluded to it earlier about what maybe worked before doesn't work now, whatever the case might be. But I'm really curious, what is your insights and or perspective on the industry as a whole? Where is it heading? And let's think, maybe 3 to 5 years. I feel like 5 to 10 is a long time. So somewhere in the next, 3 to 5 years, where are we headed?
yeah, I would with AI is going to be the game changer. Okay, we all know that it's going to be the game changer. As to where that is, I think everyone is it's kind of up in the air. And I think if you and I were to have this conversation 6 months from now, it would be completely different in terms of what AI is doing. But with that said, look at this industry in two sides. You have one side which is the implementation side, right? And that's getting your message out there. How do you get it out there? And then you have the messaging development side itself. How do you create a message that resonates with your prospective customer, positions you correctly, is unique to you, no one else can say. So look at those as two different two different categories. I see the distribution part of it changing dramatically. What AI does. So the way from an SEO perspective, from any sort of digital marketing perspective, from a CTV perspective, from an analytics perspective, how you get that information and the way you use AI to get that information and implement that is going to save lots and lots and lots of time, to where what used to take hours and hours will take minutes or seconds. Okay, that part is going to change dramatically. But the other part, the messaging part, I don't think is going to change much at all. What may change is some of the tools that allow us to do it. But at the end of the day, it's a person talking to another person, right? You're trying to get that other person to do something. And I have never in my 41 years ever met a company that does business with another company. There's always a person behind that company doing business with a person behind the other company. All right, so this B2B marketing idea, I've never bought on that. It's always like H to H, right? Human to human. So with that, right, the part of this industry that I feel will never change much is how you develop the message and how you go about really emotionally connecting with another human being. Because it's the tools mostly that you use, right, are gonna change and alter. But at the same time, if the messaging that goes out using your tools is not right, you're never going to achieve the true potential. So that's the way I would answer your question. It's going to change dramatically, and it's not going to change dramatically.
Sure.
But I think companies just need to understand the difference between the two. Just because you're going out there and spending a lot of money, but if you're not saying the right thing, truly saying the right thing that's going to get someone to go, "Ah, it's exactly what I'm looking for. It's what I want. It's different than all my competitors. You're solving my issue in a way that I want it to be solved, and you're saying it in a way I need to hear it, which is a
Right.
critical part as well. You're saying it in a way I need to hear it. That's not going to change much at all. So That's kind of the wishy-washy answer to your question. Some will change a lot. Part of it will not.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, things that can be systematized, productized, things that are, do this, then that, this, then that, that's going to be, like you said, it's going to be taken care of. I think what you were hinting or hitting at rather is the emotional side of it, right? The emotional connection and being able to craft a message that you know is going to resonate with a pain point or a feeling that is going to get your audience to respond. We're certainly a very long way away from computers being able to do that.
Right. And Billy, I would add one thing to that. Think of yourself as a consumer. Think of all your friends as consumers. I'll think of myself as a consumer. The moment that someone tries to sell you something and you
You're done.
sense this idea that they're trying to sell me something, they're done. They're done. There goes all their credibility. There goes all their believability. There goes the brand, right? There it goes. Especially in today's marketplace, it's credibility and believability are really the what you have to really strive to achieve. So what we look at now, the way we message and put messages out there, we use this concept. It's a challenger brand concept of selling without selling. So how do you sell without selling? And that's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different messaging perspective. It's completely different from the way most people look at things. But that's what you have to do because your brand is your most, valuable asset. You got to do everything possible to position that, message it, and protect it. So if you start selling hard or you start in a way that just doesn't quite jive with your marketplace, you're gonna be in trouble. So that's another big element to the whole challenger brand marketing process
Yeah.
that we really live by. And you find if you sell without selling, you generate significantly greater results and better type clients than you would by actually selling hard.
Yeah. I think what you're heading towards is an authenticity of care, right? And belief in your service and your product. And I might butcher this, but Brian, he's my right hand guy. Uh, people won't care about what you can do what is it? See, I am butchering it. Care, it's going to hit me later, but caring is what is the most important part.
You're right. You're right. It's credibility, it's believability, it's authenticity, but it's also putting the words together and using the right words that evoke the right emotion in that person that is going to get them to go, wow, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
company I want to do business with. So it's not an easy thing to get to, but we use a process that gets us to that point, and it's been built and proven with thousands of companies and many years, and it works every time, literally, because when you get to that point, it's so simple. Your message should be so simple that everyone looks at it and goes, "Crap! Why didn't we think of that?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it took so much time and research and effort to get to that point, and then when you get to that point, you own it. It's
Yep.
yours. Nobody can take it from you. Nobody can say it. Nobody can ever enter that niche because it is yours. You own it. Now you're ready to market. Now you're ready to build. Now you're ready to really, to accelerate and put fuel on that fire.
Yeah, 100%. And it also just hit me. It's people will not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And
There you go. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a beautiful saying. And he's going to be laughing at me that I forgot it, but it's all good. All
Yeah, and
right.
I'll give you,
Yeah,
I'll give you a really quick example. So,
please, please.
so we do a lot of work in the financial industry, community, banks and credit unions and that sort of thing. Think about a bank and a credit union. They all sell exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing, right? One may have a quarter point, interest rate lower on a car loan. One may have a quarter point rate higher on a savings account. But at the end of the day, they're all selling the same thing. But what do they tend to do? They tend to sell their product. They sell, yeah, we got a car loan, but we got a home refi loan that's we argue, and all the credit unions that we work with are incredibly successful because they've turned this around, right? They built a brand, a trust, something that we know that their audience wants. And then those audience, they buy into the brand. They want to be part of the brand. Then they buy the products because the products are what they need and they're very similar. So there are many, many industries like this that have similar products, but then they don't always differentiate by what makes the brand unique, the experience unique, the promise unique. They usually just focus immediately on the products themselves. And when you start pigeonholing yourself as a product first company, it becomes harder and harder and harder to continue that success, and especially from a brand perspective.
Yeah, yeah, I can tell the passion that you have for this. And you were, talking about earlier how much you love this strategy and doing this work, and it clearly comes out. Um, and what's funny is the last portion of the podcast is to talk about growth and scale, some tactics that have worked for you. I feel like we've been talking about that the entire time. So
Isn't that what it's all
it'd be
about?
an
It's all about, I've
yeah.
yet to find a client in my 41 years that says, I don't care if this works. I mean, just kind of do something for me. This is all about results. This is everything we do is about generating results and building a business and building a company and taking it to the next level, right? That's what you do.
Yeah,
That's what I do. We just use, we just have tools to accelerate that. But that's what this is all about, is results.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's personalize a little bit for the sake of the heart of the conversation. What are you guys doing? How are you growing? And are you, I would assume you're implementing your own, your own medicine, if you will. So what are some of the ways you're getting new customers? What are some of the tactics you've done? And I'd love to also hear what have you done that didn't work? And it's like, oh, well,
Sure. You know what? I just wrote a book, my second book called Challenger Brand Marketing, and I was very excited. It hit the bestseller list, so
nice.
that was very exciting. And so where we kind of put this whole strategy in a book, and so that's been really really effective because again from a marketing perspective, it's telling people what you know and telling them about a strategy or a product or service that works for others, and explaining to them how it works versus selling them on why they should buy it or why they should use it or why they should do it. And that's the strategy we've always worked or always used and has worked for us is because not all clients are right for us and we're not right for all clients. Where we have our greatest results is where we create relationships with our clients where we become really close friends because they know we care about their success. They know that their success is at the forefront of everything we do, and that we have their best interest at heart. Those are the relationships that we have with our clients. We want with our clients. That's not what everybody wants. So I think part of being successful in any company is understanding who your clients are, not just monetarily, but emotionally, psychologically, just human to human. Because if when you have that connection and you're on the same page, that to me is where success really really starts to happen. Because you can now really dig deep into their business. They understand you, and we understand them. You ask what doesn't work. I think what doesn't work over the years is where you try to force that. You try to force that, and you call someone out of the blue and say, hey, here, why don't you hire us? We're really great. Or things where you're selling people pretty hard. That doesn't work, and that's something that we learned pretty quickly. Again, it's hard to say no to business. It's hard to say no to new clients, but sometimes that's the smartest thing you'll ever do because if it's not the right fit, if it's not the right emotional connection, then you'll both find yourself struggling to dance together, right? Because you're always out of rhythm.
Yeah, I think you hit on an incredible, valuable lesson that goes under the radar too much, and that's the ability to say no. I think there are a handful of times over the last 14, 15 years where I can say, hey, we should have said no there. And the time savings, the cost savings, the stress savings, all of those pieces could have been diverted into, the customers that we really wanted to work with because of the alignment. And you nailed a big part of it in its relationship, right? I want to be friends with our customers, and the majority of them I am. And I love that part of it because you get to see the work that you do having a direct correlation to their success, to their team's success, to obviously the organizational success. So being able to say no allows you to say yes and invest more into those organizations you want to be a part of.
Yeah, and exactly. And once you go through a process to understand who you are, that answer becomes significantly more clear, not only for you, but for everyone in the organization. And then you really start to understand, what is the core essence of who the perfect, new customer is. Because if you align with that, and chances are that's what their perfect partnership is with you too. And that's where success really starts to, just blossom.
Yeah, I love that. All right, well, I've got one more question for you. We're heading into the end stretch here. Then we're going to go into a lightning round. It's easy, simple, fun questions. Just going to ask you a few things. You're going to say the first thing that comes to your mind. But before we get there,
Be gentle. Be gentle. That's all I ask.
it's all good. I promise you're going to like it. But we are going to go a little bit on the deeper side for our last question because I really like to get to know people personally. So I'd like to hear about the biggest challenge you face in your career and how has it shaped you and maybe even how you do business today.
The biggest challenge I think is when I was starting, getting people to understand this concept of challenger brand marketing and how different it was from traditional marketing. Because most people understand traditional marketing, they don't understand challenger brand marketing, and so that was the biggest challenge. But we're at a point now where there's other agencies using the term challenger brand marketing, which by the way is illegal because we own the trademark.
I saw that.
And
Yep.
so we've been kind of kind with that, but it's taken on. It's people understand it and know it, and it's made me very proud that challenger brand marketing has become a known and proven strategy. But at the end of the day, no one knows it like us, and we're the creators and vendors, and we've been doing it for so long. So yeah, I think that's probably my answer.
Yeah, love that. Well, this has been wonderful, and I really do appreciate your time. I know there's a lot of value that our audience is going to get from the entire conversation. But let's go ahead and switch it up, head into that lightning round. So, like I said, going to ask you a couple questions. First thing comes to your mind, super simple. You ready to go?
Let's go.
All right, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All right, what's one tool or system you rely on to keep your organization running smoothly?
Google Meets, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, favorite book, podcast, or resource that's influenced you?
Oh, that's it. Come on, you just set me up. Challenger brand marketing.
On a silver platter for you. All right, one bucket list item you've already checked off.
Writing on the Orient Express.
Ooh, very fun. What's one goal you're still working towards?
Um, Retiring.
Love it. And
Although
finally,
that may be
John.
for a long, long time.
Yeah, I
I love it
don't
too much.
I don't plan on stopping working, so I'm in agreement with you there. Finally, John, if our listeners want to connect with you, what's the best way to get in touch?
They can shoot me an email if they like. It's jgumas@gumas.com. That's JGUMAS at gumas.com, or they can go to our website, gumas.com. And if they mention your name in an email, I will respond right away.
I love it. Well, I really do appreciate your time. For everybody else, that's a wrap of this episode of Scaling Smart. I'm your host, Billy Mitchell, and I want to thank you for tuning in to Scaling Smart Podcast, where we have conversations with real people, real stories who have learned how to scale smart.